Well, good morning to you all. It's so great to be here with you. We have a unique service this morning because we are starting with a song and a sermon, and then we're going to have a time when we sing a little bit extra after our time of communion. We're starting a new sermon series. I'm happy to be back with you. If you have a Bible and you want to follow along, one of the church Bibles we're going to be on page 625, and we're starting a series on the book of Proverbs. Hey, Fred, can you grab that cup for me? Sorry, I left that's one of the props. Yeah, thank you very much. It's not just coffee, I promise. But anyway, and by the way, my friend Stephanie Kelly is joining us today with Rachel. Rachel, our worship director. If you haven't met her, she's great. Make sure to say hi. And Rachel invited Stephanie to join us today, so you have a chance to kind of be led by worship by both of them, and that's exciting. But anyway, today we're starting a new sermon series, and we're calling it Proverbs. More and more people are searching for answers to life's greatest questions. Questions about marriage, parenting, relationships, work, and the problems that we face every day. And people are looking to social media, AI, and the internet for their answers. Social media offers countless voices and opinions, but true wisdom begins with looking to God above all else. That's what we believe. That's why we're here. That's why we come to church, because we believe that God is real. We believe that Jesus is his son. We believe that his word, our Bible, our holy book, gives us information on the character and the nature of God. Who is this God that we say we believe in? Is he merciful? Is he just? Is he fair? Is he trustworthy? And so the Bible, we believe, gives us that information. The book of Proverbs teaches us how to find wisdom through God's word and apply it to the practical challenges of everyday life. I think these types of studies are really important. I like to focus on them in our church curriculum every 2 years. I'll do a Heroes of the Faith and a study in the book of Proverbs, if you're paying attention to my curriculum style. I also like to do the book of Psalms in November, so you'll find us trying to do Psalms in November. By the way, these books, these chapters, these Bible teachings are very difficult to do. Wisdom teachings, Psalm teachings are very difficult, so you don't find them in church a lot. So I just think it's a great privilege for us to look at these and take it some time to learn and expand on what the Bible has to offer. Because knowledge alone is not going to save you. Knowledge alone, in fact, doesn't necessarily always help you. In 2021, Zillow was one of the most informed real estate companies in the world. Do you guys have the Zillow app? Most people have it now. I mean, I know like 15-year-olds that have that Zillow app. My kids, when we're driving by, are looking up, how much does that house cost? How much does that house cost? That's what Zillow tells you, right? It's the most enormous, it has the most access to data on home values, neighborhoods, buying patterns, market trends, information about American housing and almost any company in history than any other country or any other company. Zillow's got tons of information. So it should know more, right? It should be able to predict patterns. Zillow believed it could use all that data to predict where prices were headed, buy homes ahead of the curve, renovate them, and resell them for a profit. But having more information did not guarantee better decisions. Zillow eventually admitted it could not accurately forecast where home prices were going to be in 3 months or 6 months. So all of that data, and it could not predict where it was headed. So the company purchased thousands of homes for more than it could sell them for. Zillow lost hundreds of millions of dollars in a single quarter, in 3 months, hundreds of millions of dollars, because it bought too many homes. It shut down this program. It laid off roughly a quarter of its workforce, thousands of employees in 3 months. It had all the data you needed. It had all the research you needed, but it still couldn't predict what was coming. Zillow had more information about the housing market than almost anyone on earth, and that information still could not tell them what the market would do. That is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge gives you facts, and wisdom teaches you what to do with those facts. Wisdom, as well, is how you form in the process of living out those facts. So if we tell you, for instance, The Bible teaches us to save your money so that in the future, when you retire, you'll have some money. If we tell you that and you save that money, what do you have to do? You have to sacrifice. You have to store away. You have to plan. You have to do all those things in order to have that money in the future, right? You have to think about how to budget now so that you can live then. You have to think about how much are you going to need then so that when you get there, you're going to XYZ, fill in the blank. All of those decisions along the way are causing you to behave differently and think differently and learn lessons that are now creating in you wisdom. It's not just the knowledge. It's the process of applied knowledge that is forming you that creates what we call wisdom. So knowledge is one thing. Wisdom is a whole different thing. We are the most informed generation in history, but not the most wise. Modern culture has more information and less wisdom than any generation in history because it has quietly abandoned one foundation, and that is the fear of the Lord. And that's what wisdom is built on. Knowledge and wisdom, as the Bible teaches, is built on the fear and the reverence of God. And we carry more knowledge in our pocketbooks than any generation has ever held. And still so many of us are anxious, exhausted, lost, wandering through life without a light to guide us. Did you know we're the most therapized group in human history? We're the most treated people in human history, and the most anxious and the most fearful in human history. So the question, is knowledge the answer? Does knowing more actually help you? Or what do you do with that knowledge? How do you do this? So the Bible has got something to say about this in Proverbs chapter 1. And we learned several thousand years ago what God has to say on the topic of knowledge and wisdom and the administration of that. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, is how it lays it out. Not just a footnote that we add once we've gathered enough facts. It's a trust in God, believing that He is who He says He is, and therefore I'm going to humble myself as a human being in the presence of an almighty God, and maybe trust that He has something to say. The other side of that is this. As human beings, we have traded reverence for God for trust in ourselves, and then we call that wisdom. We chase competence, but we leave character behind. So we want to be really good at something, but not be formed as a people. That's a problem. That's actually not good. If you don't have character, you can't sustain the things that you're holding. Infrastructure always supports the thing above it. So if you want a lot of knowledge, you have to have a lot of character to hold that. And we have believed that being smart enough could make life simple, but Solomon teaches us that life comes to us as a riddle that we were never meant to solve alone. Maybe there's more to life. Maybe, I mean, you guys know that human beings want to live forever. That's common knowledge, right? We're doing everything in our power to live forever. Every technological advancement is about helping us live forever. And that's the ache that's underneath so much of our culture. We want knowledge so that we can achieve more and go further. The problem is we don't have the foundation, and that ache for more is met with what the Bible calls the wisdom of God, which is Christ. And Jesus came to satisfy the human ache for ultimate reconciliation with God, that we would be at peace with God and find peace with God and find peace in this life. Even though life can be hard, we can find peace because Jesus offers it to us. But it comes with the caveat. All right, so we're in the Bible. We're in page 625 is Proverbs. If you jump all the way up to Matthew chapter 7, hold your place. There's a couple things I'll share. So in Matthew chapter 5, you guys have heard of the Sermon on the Mount. Have you guys heard of the Sermon on the Mount? Yeah? How does it start? Anybody know off the top of your head? Sermon on the Mount. And he opened his mouth and taught them by saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Right? You have the blessed, 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 blessed in Matthew chapter 5. That's a sermon that's being preached. Okay, Matthew chapter 5. And then after that blessed beatitudes, you have teaching on anger, a teaching on lust, a teaching on divorce, I'm reading right out of here, a teaching on oaths, a teaching on retaliation, a teaching on loving your enemies, okay? Then you have a teaching on chapter 6, it just spreads, giving to the needy. Then you have the Lord's Prayer. Do you guys remember that? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Okay, you know it. All right, there you go. Then you got a teaching after that. So teaching on prayer, teaching on fasting. Then you got a teaching on laying up your treasures in heaven, right? Then you got a teaching on don't be anxious. Why? Why not be anxious? Beautiful passage. Beautiful passage on not being anxious. Because it says, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet our heavenly Father feeds them. God takes care of the birds of the air and the lilies of the field. You can trust in him, okay? All that teaching. So Jesus is like teaching. He's teaching. Beatitudes. Teaching. Loving the poor. Teaching. Giving to the needy. Teaching. He's teaching and teaching and teaching. And then he teaches at the very end here on judging others. Did you know Jesus says not to judge others, but judge yourselves first? Don't look at everyone else. You look at you. You call yourself a Christian. You need to be looking at you. Those who call themselves Christians are under the judgment. And then it gets to this golden rule. You guys know the golden rule? Do unto others as you would like done unto yourself, right? The golden rule. And then you got the teaching of the tree and its fruit. Every healthy tree, verse 17, every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. It's talking about the soul. Is your soul healthy or not healthy? Why? Because in verse 21, he says, some people are going to say they're Christian, but they're not. So right before Jesus says, they're going to say, Lord, Lord, and I'm going to say, depart from me, for I never knew you. This is Jesus, words of Jesus. Why would Jesus be that harsh? Well, right before that teaching in verse 7, he says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing. So people are going to show up and say, hey, I'm a Christian, follow me. 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 Where are these people showing up, by the way? They're not in churches anymore. There's not enough money in churches. They don't come here anymore. Where are they at? They're on social media. They don't even have to show up at church. They just go there. I'm a Christian, follow me. And you know what we do? Like. Oh my God. Oh, I just love it. No accountability. I don't have to do anything. I don't even have to know their life. I don't even have to know them. I don't have to follow them. I don't have to vet them. I don't have to see how their family behaves. I don't have to see how their wife sits in service. My wife's beautiful, by the way. She's here. We're celebrating 25 years in August 12th. Yeah, I'm excited about that. My kids behave most of the time, okay? I'm like 80% success rate here. 20% we're waiting to see. But the point is this. The point is, you can't observe a person online. So how do you trust their wisdom? And Jesus goes on to say, if you follow my teachings, and that's where we're at, verse 24. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on the house, but it did not fall. Why? Because it was founded on the rock. If you follow my teachings, it will go well with you. The inverse, and everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and the beat against the house and it fell and great was the fall of it. And I think we're witnessing some of this today. We're watching a lot of that right now. Verse 27, world leaders, follow me. Follow me. Follow me. I'm a Christian. Follow me. Are you a Christian? Does your life look Christian? Do you smell like a Christian? Do you talk like a Christian? Do you walk like a Christian? You know, church, what do they say? If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, then it's a... But if it's not, Jesus is going to say, depart from me, for I never knew you. I think you need to be really careful. Here's what I'm getting at. What do you build your life on? And this series, this teaching, this time through Proverbs is about us learning to build our lives on the rock who is God, Jesus, God. We're looking to God. So humility, fundamentally, is critically important. And this book of Proverbs is going to teach us a little bit about that. I'm going to run you through 7 verses briefly today. If you were looking at Proverbs chapter 1, it's quite intense. It's 33 verses. All of them are gold. This book has within it enough to teach you whether you believe in God or do not. You can fully reject God and learn something good in this. Because this book, world leaders follow. Proverbs. It teaches you wise things. And if you apply the wisdom to your life, it will go well with you. It does not necessarily mean you'll find salvation with God. It doesn't mean that you're going to find eternal security in heaven, but it will go well with you. Wise international leaders follow the Proverbs. So how much more will it be good for you if you say you love God, you follow God, you want the Lord, and you put your faith and trust in Jesus? Exponentially more. Because you believe your soul is going to be formed for eternity. And that is critical. The formation of the soul. So let me read it to you. We're going to jump in. This book is written by King Solomon. He's the son of David and Bathsheba. That's kind of crazy. One of the wisest books in the Bible is written by the son of David and Bathsheba. Solomon is his name. He's known for being the wisest man on earth. He did a lot of foolish things. If you didn't know, Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. By the way, that's crazy. That's just too many. That's anyway. So that's a lot of people, okay? But in doing that, and all of those, every time he married a woman, every time he had a concubine, every time he did that, he was also making treaties with nations, and he was bringing into the house of Israel foreign gods. So he led the nation to idolatry. He led the nation into bad practices. He led the nation into pagan worship, child sacrifice, all kinds of crazy stuff because he was foolish. But the Bible also calls him one of the wisest people ever in history. And from this person who does foolish things, we also get some wisdom from God. That's what the book of Proverbs has. So not a case against Solomon. It's very interesting, though. Because what it tells you is that in his flesh, Solomon operated foolishly, but his wisdom came from something supernatural. And the Bible tells us, how did he get that supernatural wisdom? It tells us that he went to a place called Gibeon. And at Gibeon, when he was being first inaugurated as king, he was asked by God in a dream, what do you want? I'll give you whatever you want. And what he tells God is this. He says, give me a heart to govern your people so that I may know right from wrong. That's what he says. And God was so pleased with him that he gave him riches and power that he never asked for. Problem is, Solomon had the wisdom, but he didn't have the character to hold all those riches. So then he goes and does some things that are foolish. And that's the case with us. So we can learn. Will we take the wisdom and apply it and be formed and thereby be changed forever and be ready for heaven? Because that's where you're headed. And Solomon tells us that too in Ecclesiastes, that heaven is set in the human heart. We desire eternity. Eternity is in the human heart. And we desire to be with God because if we believe in God, it means God is supernatural. God is infinite. God is eternal. God created you. In Genesis chapter 1, what? With a part of himself, which means you are infinite and you are eternal. And at some point, you get to be with the God of the universe in heaven forever as an eternal being. And so the process of changing on earth is the preparation, it's the formation of the soul. I can talk about this a long time because I love this stuff. But this is where we're headed. And this wisdom is about learning in the head and applying it in your life so that your soul will be formed and the character will be formed. And I think God's going to use that in eternity. That's my suspicion. I think that's how God uses pain and suffering to form us. Because there's something in heaven that I think is not in this book. There's a lot in this book, by the way. There's a lot in here. But I don't think I think there's things that are not in here that I think we're supposed to be preparing for a story that will be written in heaven. Imagine that. Let me read to you now from the book of Proverbs, chapter 1. It says in verse 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom. So let me explain how we're going to read this. Verse 1 is introduction. Verse 2 to 4 are kind of like this is what you could get. Verse 5 is going to be a critical lesson. 6, a tag onto that. And verse 7, another critical lesson. So let me read it to you. Verse 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance, to understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom. So there's a lot happening. Verse 2 opens up by binding two words together, knowledge and wisdom. Hebrew integrates them. English does not. So when we hear knowledge and wisdom, we need to separate that out. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is applied information with character. But in verse 7, after 6 verses on wisdom, insight, instruction, Solomon reaches the foundation. He says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. He says the fear of the Lord is actually the beginning of knowledge because he's intertwining knowledge and wisdom. But what he's also saying is you cannot attain wisdom or knowledge without humility before a holy and eternal God. So here's what it means. Wisdom's not a different substance. Wisdom is knowledge applied. And that whole process starts in the same place, in humility before a holy God. Now, some of you in this room are not sure you can trust the book of Proverbs. Some of you think you should not trust the Bible at all. Maybe you've heard it's outdated. Maybe you've heard it's contradictory. Maybe you've heard it's just an old collection of opinions. That's a fair question, and it deserves a real answer. Here's where I'd point you. The Bible's reliability is not proven by manuscripts and archaeology alone, though those hold up remarkably well. We have lots of manuscripts. We have lots of archaeology. The Bible's reliability is proven by the character of the God it reveals. Look at what kind of book the book of Proverbs is, okay? Let me just tell you. In the ancient world, wisdom writings were locked up for the royalty, written only to train the crown princes to rule. And Solomon strips that off. Solomon hands this wisdom to the farmer, the servant, the widow, the teenager in the street, and anyone that's willing to listen. So what it tells us is a book that includes everyone instead of hoarding truth for the powerful is already telling you something about the God behind the words of that book. Solomon gives wisdom away. The God of the Bible gives wisdom away. He's not hoarding it for himself, keeping the people confused. He's trying to share with the people. This is what can happen if you trust me. And look at the word instruction in verse 2. It carries with it a parenting sense. It's a disciplinary sense. So before we ask how to find wisdom, you need to know you're not being asked to trust a document, though I think you should. I trust this document. But that's not what this book is asking you to do. The book of Proverbs is not just asking you to trust the Bible. I trust the Bible. I believe this is it. For me, I've given my life to its study. I trust its axioms. I trust its precepts. I believe in the God that's in here. But that's not what the book is asking you. What the book of Proverbs is asking you is this. Verse 7. What does it say? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It doesn't say read every word of the Bible and follow it. That's not what Proverbs is asking you. Verse 7 is asking you, do you believe in God? And if you believe in God, will you humble yourself before that God? Because if you can't humble yourself before God, you will find yourself in the position of the fool. You will not be wise. That's the presupposition. That's the beginning of how to extract wisdom from the book of Proverbs. Are you guys bored? Okay. Everybody's kind of scared a little bit? All right. That's good. That's where I want you. No. All right. I'm going to make some points now very, very simple. You've been very patient with me, and our worship leader is ready to get on the stage. She's been looking at me already. She's like, get me on the stage. I want to sing. We'll get there. Okay, here are your points. Number one, you find wisdom by going to the source. Okay? Proverbs teaches you got to go to the source. You got to go to God. Do you believe in God? Go to the source, number one. Source is really interesting. When you think about water, people want water from the source, not from downstream. Because the further downstream you drink water, the more opportunity for contamination it has. You know, we used to drink water from hoses, those of us that were crazy growing up in the 80s, right? Some of you are so crazy. We drink water from hoses, right? And then what has been the pursuit since then? How do we get the most filtered water possible? And we're like, let's put it in bottles. And now they're telling us, don't drink from bottles. It's killing you too. So what do we do? I don't know. This is bottled probably in Riverside. I'm just guessing that's not the source of good water. So there was Jimmy Fallon did a show where he went out on the street and he took a water from a hose and they put it in a plastic cup and then they were selling it for $12, telling people, will you believe this is special water? And people were like, oh yeah, I could taste the herbal notes in this water. LA water hose from the back of a building. Did you see that? Oh, so crazy. Crazy. You know why? Because we want the source. And Proverbs is telling you God is the source. That's number one. Number two is this. You find wisdom by wanting it more than you want to be right. I've been married for 25 years. Okay? Let me just tell you. I have made fighting with my wife an art form. I love to be right. I want to be right. It feels like a battle of epic proportion to me. When we're fighting about something, I feel like I'm playing football in the NFL in front of 100,000 viewers. And I want to win and hear the cheers of the crowd, you know? I'm planning every little statement, trying to win this fight. You know who does that? A fool. That's what the Bible says. Because I'm closed in my mind to hearing whether or not I'm actually right. If I'm going into a fight and I already think I'm right, it means I'm not open to being wrong. And a wise person seeks wisdom above being right. That's number two. Finally, number three is you find wisdom by starting in humility. If you really want the secrets that God has to offer you about living wisely in this world, you have to see yourself in reverence to the God of the universe. The Bible uses the word fear. It doesn't mean afraid. The word fear in the Bible is not being used for afraid. You got to think of it like Moses at Mount Sinai. Moses at Mount Sinai, there was a little bit of fear. There was a little bit of afraid, right? Oh, God, he can kill me. This is the God that opened the Red Sea. This is the God that had fire come down from heaven. This is lightning strikes and thunder and the mountain shaking. I'm really nervous, right? There's some of that. He's more powerful than me. Some of that. But there's another part of it too, and the other part of it is I worship him. I love him. So reverence, fear. When it says the fear of the Lord, it means humility, reverence, obedience, desire to know him. That's what it means when it says the fear of the Lord. And the foundation that everything stands on. Fearing the Lord means seeing him, and that's humility. You can't think your way into wisdom. You have to humble your way into it. And that's what Proverbs is trying to tell you. Fundamentally, do you think you don't need God? If that's you, then you're in the position of what we would call a closed mind. You have a closed mind. And what's interesting is we live in a culture that would say open-mindedness means closing your mind to God. I think there's a profound discrepancy there. How can you, so this point, to illustrate it, you find wisdom by starting in humility. You think of it this way. The proud turn their mind closed to God and therefore make their way impenetrable to his wisdom. That's pride. That's pride. That's saying, I know better. I don't need God. I will be my own God, which means I will develop my own morality. I will develop my own law. I will develop my own justice. Everything depends on what I think is good. And then if you challenge it, they'll say, no, I base it on other human beings. Where did they get it? Well, they got it from somebody. Where did they get it? You see, you're basing yourself on things that have come downstream. Because if you've chased that far enough, someone will say, oh, they read it from the Bible. So you have the opportunity to turn that closed-mindedness open and therefore being a vessel worthy of God pouring into. That's the challenge before us. And that's what this teaches. I'm going to invite Kirk to come on up. He's going to lead us in a time of communion. And I want to thank you for allowing me to start us on this journey of teaching through the Proverbs. And I'm really excited for you to meet my friend Stephanie, who was leading up here with Rachel. Stephanie's going to be leading with Rachel at the end of our service. And thank you for doing that. So Kirk's going to lead us now.